Morning. How are you all doing? You survived orientation. You are oriented and ready to start. And we're so excited to have you and your families. Thank you for joining us today. My name is Elizabeth Kronk-Warner. I have the privilege of being dean at the S.J Quinney College of Law. My pronouns are she and hers, and as I like to do anytime that we're gathering together, I do want to acknowledge that this land that we're currently on is named for the Ute tribe and is the traditional and ancestral homeland of the Shoshone, Paiute, Goshute, and Ute tribes. The University of Utah recognizes and respects the enduring relationship that exists between many indigenous peoples and their traditional homelands. We respect the sovereign relationship between tribes, states, and the federal government, and we affirm the University of Utah's commitment to a partnership with Native nations, urban Indian communities through research, education, and community outreach. And it is my absolute, yes, it's an exciting day. Yes, I like the excitement. We'll see you class of what, like 2063? We are so excited to have you all, and particularly is my absolute pleasure to introduce Judge Diana Gibson to you. She is simply amazing, and I highly admire her. She has taught me many wonderful things, and so I'm sure in the next several minutes she's going to impart great wisdom to you as well. We were chatting a little bit, and we think that this might be actually the 30th anniversary of her start to law school. So it seems relatively nice that she's back with us 30 years later to give the oath today. So we're very excited to have her. So Judge Gibson graduated from the law school at the S.J Quinney College of Law in 1996. During law school, she participated in the trainer moot court competition. She and her partner won the regional competition, and they were awarded Best Brief, and she was named Best Oral Advocate, as we will see in just one moment. They also finished in the final four of the national competition. She was the editor-in-chief of the Journal of Energy, Natural Resources, and Environmental Law. During law school, she worked as an extern for Judge Wilkins on the Utah Court of Appeals, and that externship turned into a 2-year clerkship with Judge Wilkins after she graduated. She then worked at Parsons, Bailey, and Latimer for 10 years, from 1998 to 2008, in the litigation department, becoming a partner in 2005. Now, she was the first female minority partner at Parsons at that time, and she's been told by many, although we can't empirically document it, but by many that she was likely the first female minority partner among all of the large Salt Lake law firms. Yes. See what I mean? She's pretty amazing. So while at Parsons, she had the opportunity to participate in trials, arbitrations, and appeals. In fact, that's why she's a little late right now. She just came from a trial, so she has actually done the trials, which is amazing. And she did that in state court, federal court, and international tribunals. One of her most interesting international cases was a maritime case before the London Metals Exchange. From 2008 to 2018, Judge Gibson worked as an in-house counsel for 2 publicly traded companies, Alliant Tech Systems and Vista Outdoors, and she has amazing stories from her time. During that time, she held both legal and business positions, was the head of international legal department, and held various positions including deputy general counsel and general counsel. In 2018, Judge Gibson was appointed to the 3rd District Court bench by Governor Gary Herbert. She took the bench in January of 2019, just a couple months before COVID, and has served both Salt Lake and Tooele counties. In addition, Judge Gibson has taught courses in legal writing, privacy, regulatory compliance, and international relations. She is an American Bar Foundation Fellow, and she currently serves on our S.J Quinney College of Law Board of Trustees and on the Outreach Committee for International Association of Women Judges, and she is chair of the Utah State Courts Common Thread Program and co-chair of the Jury Selection Committee. Judge Gibson also volunteers and participates on several committees working to support veterans and to address issues associated with domestic violence, access to justice, and diversity, equity, inclusion. Please join me in giving her a very warm welcome, and we're so privileged to have Judge Gibson.
Let's see. All right. Hey, good night. Good night. I'm ready to go to bed. Good evening. It's a long day. So I can't say thank you enough. I'm so honored to be here. Thank you, Dean Kronk-Warner. I do want to recognize the law school administration and faculty who's present today, and most importantly, our first-year law students and all of their families who are here to support. We were talking about the fact that this is actually my 30th year. I started law school in 1993. So this week, back in August of 1993, would have been my first week in law school as well. So 30 years ago, I started. I was thinking about the differences between when I started and when you're starting now. I just want to highlight a couple of those. First of all, and most importantly, we are in a completely different building. We were in that dark little dungeon that was just a couple doors down. In addition, back in my day, we didn't really have laptop computers in the courtroom, or not in the courtroom, in our classrooms. I'm assuming that all of you probably have your laptops, you always take notes. I think when I started, there was none. By my third year, there were 3 people with laptops. I actually had one of them, and I actually preferred to handwrite all of my notes still. We didn't have email. We didn't have the internet. We didn't have Chat GPT, not even an issue. We did have the intranet every once in a while. One of the professors would say, you can get your syllabus on the intranet, and we'd all go, well, what is that? How do I get to it? Cell phones were that big block, so we didn't really have cell phones. I actually had a pager, and when someone wanted to contact me, they'd put their phone number in and put 911 afterwards. So that's how we communicated. Cameras, so cameras were film. We had all those disposable cameras, didn't have that easy way of taking a picture of everything that your teacher wrote on the board. And then most importantly, and probably one of the big differences is everything that we did, we actually went and looked at books. At the time we had Lexis, that was really the main thing that we would use to shepherdize cases. But I remember when we were working on, editing things, editing our work product, notes, articles, everyone would say, you really can't trust Lexis. You have to go double check it in the books. So we always looked at books. We had to read cases from the books. Sometimes books would end up missing, and that was a big issue back in my day. And I know that back then, nothing really has changed in some ways. Standing here today, I still feel some of the same things that you probably all do now. I'm a little nervous, a little anxious, hoping that I don't make a complete fool of myself by talking right in front of everybody. So I don't think that anything is different much, even though I've been a lawyer for now almost 30 years. So I was asked to talk about a couple things. First, talk a little bit about myself, talk about my journey in law school, what brought me there, and then about the rules of professional conduct. So I'll tell you a little bit about me. So first off, I'm an immigrant to the United States. English is my second language. My mother was born in China. I was born in Hong Kong. She has a very Joy Luck Club life. So she never finished elementary school. She has a speech impediment, doesn't really speak English very well. It's very broken English. She was living in Hong Kong. She had me, so single mother. And my father, who's from Price, Utah, he joined the Navy during the Vietnam War. So he happened to be stationed in Hong Kong. He met my mother, and because of that, I got the opportunity to come to the United States, grow up here, and become a citizen. So I came here when I was 4.5, and I am very fortunate for my father's service. But for that, I would not be here today. My family life, so, my dad was an enlisted military serviceman. We lived in California for a while. We ultimately moved back to Utah. My parents still live in Magna, so I went to school in Magna, Utah, Cypress graduate. During that time, my parents had, it was very financially challenging. My dad had 3 jobs at different times. My mom also worked. And one of the interesting things is they actually worked together at night cleaning offices. And I used to babysit while they used to do that. And when I went for my confirmation hearing, I had been nominated for this position. I went up to the state capitol for that hearing. We walk into the Capitol and my dad says, "Wow, your mom and I have not been here for a very long time." And I asked, "Well, when was the last time you were here?" And they said, "Well, we used to clean the office buildings in the Capitol when you were younger." Anyway, so that was really interesting. I'm there to be confirmed as a judge, and my parents used to work there as janitors. So that's a little bit about my background. What brought me to law school is actually not very interesting. My entire life, I thought I was going to be a doctor. I thought I was going to go to medical school. In college, I took a communications and the law course. I really liked it. I thought the cases were really interesting, and it made me think that maybe being a doctor wasn't the only path. And I was talking with my professor, and he said one thing. He made one compliment. He just said, "Well, you are a really good writer. Maybe you should think about law school." So that one compliment, coupled with the cross-examination scene of Jessup from A Few Good Men, changed my complete trajectory, and I became a lawyer. In law school, I will just tell you, I was painfully shy, super anxious, insecure, probably had a lot of imposter syndrome at the time. I sat in the back of the class, hoping that I would not get called on. I don't think I ever raised my hand to volunteer to answer a question. And I could think of nothing worse than networking, making me go mingle with people and talk to people. And public speaking, hard no. Was not even going to be part of what I did. But for whatever reason, I really wanted to be a litigator, and I really liked to write. So somehow I ended up doing moot court. I don't know that I ever got over the anxiety that comes with public speaking. Still to today, I still have a little anxiety every time I have to speak. It's much better, though, after almost 30 years. So I will tell you that things do change, with practice, with developing your skills, getting a little more confidence. What you experience in law school doesn't necessarily predict exactly what you're going to do in the future. So I was asked to talk about the rules of professional conduct, just a little bit. So I'm going to change these around a little bit. So we have these rules, the rules of professional conduct. There are, and I brought it just to show it to you, 34 pages of rules that govern your conduct. I suggest that you read them so that you understand them. And, just to put this in context, in the legal system, there are rules that govern everything, right? Rules of evidence, rules of civil procedure, rules of criminal procedure. We've got statutes, we have common law. All of those govern what we do in the practice of law. And these rules are no different. At the end of the day, all of these rules together really are trying to help us reach just and fair resolutions of issues on the merits. So these rules talk about what type of lawyer you want to be. The preamble that I'm going to read to you, so this is chapter 13. The preamble says, "A lawyer is a representative of clients, an officer of the legal system, and a public citizen having special responsibility for the quality of justice. Each lawyer is responsible to observe the law and the rules of professional conduct, shall take the attorney's oath upon admission to the practice of law, and shall be subject to the rules of lawyer discipline and disability. So I want to focus on that first sentence. A lawyer is a representative of clients, an officer of the legal system, and a public citizen having special responsibility for the quality of justice. Those are a lot of fancy words that really tells you, you get to choose what type of lawyer you're going to be. And the question is how do you want to be known in the legal community that you practice in? These are guidelines to help you maneuver through all of that, but at the end of the day, it's your choice. The question is how much does your integrity cost? What is it worth, right? Do you want to be known as someone who is trustworthy, respectful, someone who judges look to and say, yeah, if that person made that representation, I believe it? Do you want to appear in court and suggest that someone else is a liar? Do you want to be aggressive? Do you want to hide the ball when you're doing discovery? And do you want to do all of that just to win? So I think when you think about what are the things that you aspire to be, who do you want to be, how do you want to be known, I think the rules of professional conduct are helpful, but at the end of the day, you get to make that decision. So when I read these rules, what it really underscores to me is that my role as a lawyer goes far beyond merely representing a client. It involves your commitment to both individual clients and also the broader legal system. Lawyers are expected, and this is going to be hard, you will face this, you're expected to balance your responsibilities as advocates for your clients with your duty to uphold the principles of justice, act as responsible citizens, and contribute to the overall quality and integrity of the legal process. Lawyers fulfill a really important role in our society, and it's a really big burden that you are going to be undertaking. At the end of the day, as a lawyer, there is a component of public service, regardless of whatever you do. But your job, really, and your goal should be to make society better. The ideal for all of you: uphold the rule of law, provide access to justice, defend due process, promote government accountability, promote social change, resolve disputes, engage in the community, and above all, protect the integrity of our legal system. So when I read the rules of professional conduct, those are guides, but they don't tell me the type of lawyer I want to be. You all get to decide the type of lawyer that you are going to be. With regard to some suggestions, I thought I'd put together a top 10 list of some things that I wish that I would have thought about while I was in law school. And maybe just to drive this home a little bit, my view of the world was very small. My view of the world was, sort of dictated by my parents. My mom never finished elementary school. My dad barely finished high school. I think they just got him out of high school to get him out. So their view of the world was pretty limited. And when I came to law school, it was sort of like a day-to-day thing. I remember the very first week, they just give you books and then you start reading. And I remember reading a case, and I don't remember which case it was, but it was dealing with summary judgment. And all I remember is thinking, and when I got done, is who is the movant? Do you guys know who the movant is? Does anyone know? Will you raise your hand if you do? Oh my goodness, thank you for me saying that. I remember reading that and thinking, who is the movant in this case? And I was so scared to ask out loud, to raise my hand and ask, I don't understand, to ask the question and say, who is the movement? So I went to the professor, quietly and secretly and said, who is the movement? And the professor just said, oh, that's just the moving party. That's the party who moved for summary judgment. But it wasn't defined in the case, and I had no idea. And then the professor, after the fact, when we were explaining the case, said, oh, and by the way, the movement is the moving party. And you could see everybody in the classroom going, oh, that's great. So where I thought that everyone else knew the answer, I was wrong, because everyone was sort of in the same boat. And so, but still, during law school, I sort of, took it one day at a time. I didn't really know what it was like to be a lawyer, had never met one. So these are sort of some things that I thought would be helpful for you to start thinking about now, so that you don't have to learn them like I did through gaffes. So the first one is that there is more than one way to be a successful lawyer. And I think this ties into the rules of professional conduct. So when I started law school in 1993, you would probably be surprised, but we were still having the discussion about whether or not I should wear a skirt in court or if I could wear pants. And the discussion was, you should just wear a skirt just to be safe. Like, you do not want a ruling against your client because you chose to wear pants. So we were still having that discussion 30 years ago. So when I started, I thought there was really only one way to be a lawyer, and you see how lawyers conduct themselves. Mostly you get that from TV, right? You think, I've got to do it like all the guys do it, right? I need to be aggressive. I need to stand my ground. I'm not going to give any extensions of time. I'm not going to be soft. I'm going to work a ton of hours. There's no boundaries. I'm going to say yes to everything. I'm going to show no weakness. I'm not going to ask for any special concessions. I'm not going to address any personal issues, and I'm going to wear a skirt. I'm going to do it all because that is what was done. So I thought that that was how I had to do it. So that's how I started working. But I'm just going to suggest to you today that the practice of law is evolving. Even the way we deliver legal services today has greatly changed from when I first started. So don't feel bound by the way things have always been done. It is within your power to decide how things should be done. So you have that power. Don't lose sight of that. In addition to that, I'll just tell a story, and this story sort of segues into my next number 2, which is you catch more flies with honey. So when I started at Parsons, I was desperate to litigate anything. So I went around and I asked anybody if they had any small cases that I could take to trial. And there was one attorney, he had this small case. It was an administrative proceeding, a post proceeding. So a police officer was being decertified. So I took the case, went through discovery, we had some depositions, we went through the trial, and at the end of the trial, my opposing counsel, who was an older gentleman, came up to me. We were at a drinking fountain, and he said, I don't want you to take this the wrong way. So when that's the preface, you just get ready, right? So I don't want you to take this the wrong way, but you did a really good job, but you can catch more flies with honey. And my immediate reaction was, I am offended. You only said that to me because I'm a woman, and you would not have said that to a man. And I will tell you that I was probably aggressive because I thought that's what I was supposed to be, right? I didn't really know. I was probably not unpleasant to deal with, but I wasn't pleasant to deal with, right? Little rigid, was not going to bend much because I really wanted to win for my client. It was her job on the line. And so I walked away thinking that he was patronizing me. Fast forward several years, a couple years, maybe even 2. And, during the first 2 years, the practice of law was really difficult because opposing counsel always felt like adversaries, right? So every time I got an email from them, or maybe even better, a letter from them, because that's actually how we used to communicate back then, a letter from them, I didn't want to open it. I didn't want to read it because I knew it was just going to make me angry. And I started finding that the practice of law was really challenging. So then I started working with this attorney who was brilliant, had an amazing way of delivering every single oral argument, yet he was kind. And we went to a motion hearing, and after the end of the motion, and we had won, he asked opposing counsel if they wanted to go to lunch. And in my mind, I was thinking, oh, can we really do that? Is that like associating with the enemy? So we go to lunch, and it was really delightful. He ended up being like friends and collegial with everyone who was opposing counsel. We would fight hard in court, but at the end, friends. You'd go out for lunch or dinner, a drink. And after practicing with him, I realized that that is the practice that I want. You know, I want to be in a practice where I feel like I can treat opposing counsel as a colleague, not as an adversary. And so after that, it made me start to look back on how I felt about that comment, you catch more flies with honey. And it turns out that that was really true. You actually do. And as I went through not only my litigation career, but in-house counsel, as in-house counsel, you do a lot of negotiations with not only your own client, because they're with you in the same house now, right? But also other parties, third parties that they deal with. And it is really true. You do catch more flies with honey. When people trust you, they like you, you get a lot more leeway. And I do think it benefits your client. So think about those two things. There's more than one way to be a successful lawyer, and you do catch more flies with honey. This one's kind of funny. There's also a story behind it. I'm not sure if I have enough time to tell it, but each one of these has a story behind them. They're all kind of funny. So there's a little quote, "Dance like no one is watching." But I would tell you to email like everyone will read it on the front page of the Tribune. You can be a witness. You can be asked, even as a lawyer, to talk about emails. I have been a witness. I've had an email that I've prepared put in front of me, had to explain it. In addition, sometimes you get emails, sometimes you want to just type back impulsively, right? I would tell you to maybe sit on it, maybe ask a colleague to read it before you send it, because you should assume that everyone will read that email. That email will become part of your reputation as an attorney. So think about that. Force yourself to be uncomfortable. Meet people, learn to network, socialize in the legal community. Take the opportunity to meet other students, lawyers, judges. Take every opportunity that you can. Being a lawyer, a really good lawyer, requires skill, experience, hard work, but it also requires the skill of building a network. That is almost as equally important. Who you know leads to lots of opportunities. It could be personal opportunities, it could be a business opportunity, so just keep that in mind. And then the more people you know in the community, I promise the more you're going to like practicing law. Say yes to every stretch opportunity that comes your way. Don't say no because it's hard. Don't say no because it's going to take a lot of time. Don't deselect yourself because you're insecure about your own qualifications. Let someone else tell you that you're not qualified. If you want it, go for it. You also need to figure out and be comfortable with being an advocate for yourself. It's easy for us to advocate for somebody else, but for some reason, whenever we have to advocate for ourselves, it feels a little unseemly, right? It doesn't feel comfortable. But You have to figure out a way to do that. I used to think that working hard and doing a good job, that everyone's just going to notice, and they should just come bring like flowers and bags of gold and put them on my desk, right? Cupcakes to say thank you for all the hard work. But, you know, everyone is busy. Not everyone sees everything that you do. So, and it's not that it's intentionally disregarded, it's not always top of mind. So you've got to figure out a way to advocate yourself in a way that is comfortable for you. And you also have to ask for opportunities. If there's something that you want to do, you need to go ask for it. If there's a special concession that you need to go ask for it. People are not going to know. So you need to learn to advocate for yourself. This is a hard business, and you've got to try and figure out a balance between your personal life, what your needs are, what your ultimate goals are, and doing the best job you can for whomever you're employed by. Find mentors, become a mentor, and ultimately support each other. I really feel strongly that you should treat everybody in the legal community as if they're your colleague, whether they're on the opposite side of the V, the same side of the V, whether there's someone who drives you nuts, or who you will be best friends with for 30 years. You need to treat everybody as if they're a colleague. Get involved in the legal community. There's pro bono work out there. There's a lot of nonprofit organizations, legal associations, and there's all sorts of groups and committees that are out there working to make our legal community and our society better. Find something that interests you. Go get involved and make a difference, even a small difference. And then finally, and this is a really big one, I think you need to be both tactical and strategic about your career. And what I mean by tactical and strategic, tactical is really doing all the things on a day-to-day basis that you have to get done, right? Meeting the deadlines that you have to do, making sure you get the contract out on time, making sure it's good work. Those are doing all the things that you have to do on a tactical basis. But strategically, you always have to be mindful of what are your end goals? Where is it that you want to be in 5 years? Where is it that you want to be in 10 years? And every once in a while, you need to look up from all of those hours that you're working and decide whether or not this is what you want to do, and maybe recalculate. But strategically, for instance, if you wanted to be a judge now, you should start thinking about what is the skill set that I need? What is the experience I need so that when that opportunity comes up, you're ready? And that's the same for any other position. I would just say, be a good worker, do everything that you need to do today, but be mindful of the bigger picture of what your ultimate goals are too. And I missed one actually as I was going through this. That was my big end, but there's one more that I think is equally important. Hit your deadlines and make your commitments. One of my mentors, and a lot of these, I'll tell you, come from experiences that I've had and discussions with mentors. Hit your deadlines, really important. And the reason is this: very few people can really judge the quality of your work. They're not going to know that that is the best brief that anyone has ever written. They are not going to know that that is a Loctite contract you just sent. And no one is going to care if it's 5 days late. So you need to hit your deadlines. People are not going to judge you by the quality of work all the time. Other lawyers may, but most of the world is going to judge you by whether or not you can make your deadlines and make your commitments. So make sure you keep that top of mind. So that is my top 10 list that I wish I knew when I was younger. I just want to say congratulations to all of you for getting here. It's such a huge accomplishment, even to be attending the S.J Quinney College of Law. You are such an impressive group. The College of Law is really lucky to have each of you. I think you bring our ranking up significantly. And I look forward to getting to know each and every one of you over the next 3 years while you're in law school. I look forward to watching you as you progress in your careers. Hopefully I'll see some of you appear before me. And I actually am very excited to see what contributions you make to our community. So congratulations to all of you, and good luck. All right, and now for the most important part for all of you. Do they stand? All right, if you will all rise. Please raise your right hand, and I will administer the oath. So please repeat after me. I solemnly swear that I will support, obey and defend, the Constitution of the United States and the Constitution of the State of Utah.
The Constitution of the United States and the Constitution of the State of Utah.
That I will discharge the duties of law student.
That I will discharge the duties of law student.
With honesty and fidelity.
With honesty and fidelity.
And that I will strictly observe the student code.
And that I will strictly observe the student code.
The Utah standards of professionalism and civility.
The Utah standards of professionalism and civility.
And the Utah rules of professional conduct.
And the Utah rules of professional conduct.
As they may apply to my professional, educational, and personal activities as a law student. Congratulations, class of 2026. You may be seated.
Thank you so much, Judge Gibson. I wish I had had that advice when I started law school, so thank you. Well, this concludes the formal part of this evening. We will now have hors d'oeuvres and an opportunity to mix in the common area just down this hallway, and we invite you to all come and enjoy. Congratulations.
I should have read the keynotes. I only read this. I should have.
I know.